Band in Trinidad.
Yo.
Yeah. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4.
God damn it.
Hey. Bad boy.
You know we crazy.
This is Burdie.
And this is Barney.
And as it turns out, this is the Burdie and Barney show.
Only because Wild 86 is his. So otherwise it would have been the Barney and Burdie show.
No mess with the copyright, Barney. No mess with the copyright. So, one of us is a long-standing journalist published on 3 continents. The other is a B-licensed international football coach. We try to let you guess which is which. And today we have a special guest with us, Shaka Hislop, former Trinidad and Tobago 2006 World Cup goalkeeper, once the England Premier League's most expensive goalkeeper, and now ESPN analyst. Shaka, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
That song hard, boy, Shaka.
I'm not sure who was supposed to say hello to first. It seemed to have some tension on this podcast, buddy. Some unresolved tension.
little lone story, you know. Shaka, while at Reading, once almost signed for Manchester United himself. You know, Alex Ferguson made the call to McGee. As I recall, he wanted him as backup as Schmeichel. So, in other words, Shaka should be on the red side of Manchester today. Am I right, Shaka?
Shaka, don't answer that as yet, please. Don't answer that as yet.
Okay.
What I wanna say is I've known Shaka since I was probably about 14, 15, and I've always known his parents to be praying people. So, so it's obvious why he didn't end up there. Proceed.
How close were you to being a Red Devil, Shaka? Give us the story.
I'm not sure exactly how close it was, but so I eventually left Reading in 95, and there was a lot of speculation about my future, in particular around the interest by Kevin Keegan and Newcastle. And with that kind of rumbling in the background, Sir Alex Ferguson called Mark McGee. They knew each other very well from, I think, shared time in Aberdeen. And called Mark McGee to ask about me and you know, express his interest. And let me know of Manchester United's interest.
Shaka, we've had Trinidad players go abroad. The first year, okay. And the problem comes by year 2, definitely year 3, when it's time to get a new contract. You know, what's the big challenge there, I think, for guys coming from these climates, essentially, and going to football in Europe in terms of that second, third season?
Right. First of all, it's a really tough culture shock, and I experienced that, and I tell that story to this day. That my first contract was a 2-year deal. Had it not been for 2 years, I wouldn't have gone back. I remember coming back to Trinidad for the off season at the end of that 93 season, 92-93 season, and telling my dad I really didn't want to go back. I wasn't playing. I wasn't enjoying it. It was tough, and my dad's response then was, "Listen, you signed a 2-year contract, and you abide by your agreements. You stick to those promises made. So go back, see out the last year, and if at the end of that second year you still feel this way, well then you call it a day, and you look at what other options you had. Keeping in mind I was still just a year out of university, so that was something I could have gone back and done. I went back up to England after that break, so for the 93-94 season, got called into the manager's office, Mark McGee. He was there with his assistant Colin Lee, and they told me in no uncertain terms they had accepted an offer for the starting goalkeeper Steve Francis from Huddersfield, and they couldn't afford to bring anybody else in. So I was the number one.
A vote of confidence there, Shaka.
Well, I mean, that make what you want of that. You know what I mean? It was as blunt as that. But that season, I played every game that season. We got promoted out of the second division, what is now League One. We got promoted, and Reading and Mark McGee and Colin Lee offered me a contract at the end of that season, another 2-year contract.
And now, as the analyst for ESPN, what was the transition like? You still miss it?
No, I don't miss playing. I miss the camaraderie of dressing rooms, but I don't necessarily miss playing. And I think the reason for that is I just ran out of gas. You know, I didn't have to retire because of injury, thankfully, or serious injury, thankfully. I just come to the end of my time. And the last few years of a professional athlete's life are tough when you get to that stage, because you're not doing things, your body just can't do things the way that you wanted to. You become doing, and though mentally you still, you know, feel the same, physically you just can't do it anymore, and that's tough. That's tough to accept. And so I struggled with that kind of mentally for the last 2 or 3 years. And eventually I just had to admit to myself that, you know, despite my best efforts, I wasn't going to again recognize the kind of form that I once enjoyed, or I hold myself to, and it was just time to call it a day. So I didn't miss playing. I missed the camaraderie, but then you kind of find that in a studio, and we, you know, it was an easy transition. Coming in, working alongside Tommy Smith, Janusz Mihalik, Derek Ray, who made up the ESPN press pass crew at the time. And you kind of find that camaraderie, you know, back with those guys, talking about the game, laughing about things outside the game. And I always remember Tommy kind of giving me probably the best advice I've had. Just be true to your opinions. Don't try to, you know, just don't try to bend or manipulate it to fit what somebody else might be seeing or thinking. You know, and that's what I've tried to do in ESPN. I've tried to represent who I am, a small island boy who played football on one of the world's biggest stages, and have a different outlook on the game in its entirety because of that. I didn't grow up thinking about joining a professional club's academy and going on to represent their first team. You know, I grew up thinking that going to university was the end of my what would be the end of my footballing life, and then that was my goals, and you know, so I have a different outlook on the game, and I try to represent that.
Well, while we have you on that, you could probably tell us how the move came. You were playing preseason football and you were spotted somewhere. Give us that story. How you got from America to England in the first place.
Via plane?
the move from the US to England.
Yes, you were spotted at a preseason. Was it some sort of competition in New York?
Well, that let me warn all, as you all probably know, everything with me is a backstory. I have a long story for everything.
Let me get comfortable.
Yeah. But go on, make some popcorn because we can be here for a while. So I graduated from university in 1992. So this is pre-MLS. So that's to date myself even more. But the US had an indoor league, and that the summer or spring of 1992. They had what they call the Senior Bowl. So seniors who graduated from college go and play this indoor exhibition game for all the indoor teams to come and see. It's kind of like the indoor version of the MLS Combine now. Okay. Thankfully, it was in Baltimore, which is just up the road from Washington, D.C. I could afford to jump on a bus and go up to Baltimore. If it was anywhere else in the US, I wouldn't have been able to afford to go. But it was in Baltimore, so I could pay for a bus to get up there, which is what I did. So I went up, I played relatively well, I guess, and was drafted by the Baltimore Blast. The coach at the time was Kenny Cooper Sr., who himself was a goalkeeper for Manchester United some years before. I got drafted by the Blast, and I remember talking to Kenny and saying, listen, I really want to play outdoor. I want to give outdoor a go. So don't waste a draft pick on me. So they didn't draft me in the first round as they intended, but they did draft me in the second. And then that summer, the Baltimore Blast were going on a tour of England. They were going to Birmingham to play 2 games against Aston Villa. And their usual goalkeeper got called into the Puerto Rico national team. So they asked me to come along. I was the only goalkeeper they took. Went to play 2 indoor games against Aston Villa. Dwight had just joined Aston Villa a year or 2 previous. I got man of match in both games. There was a Reading scout in the stands at the Birmingham Indoor Arena who saw me play. And they offered me a trial. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yes.
And that's the short version. That's the short version of that story.
Very appreciative. But Shaka, just touching back on the transition from playing to being a analyst at ESPN. I always knew that you would gravitate to that and be a success at that simply because there's no training, no physical training there. I don't ever remember you enjoying training. So all the long talk about what your body could do and your form and everything, it all came down to you didn't want to train. That was it. That was it.
You see?
Since the days when I forget the coach name, boy. When we with the U19 team who had you all diving the length of the national stadium. Since those days.
Exactly. That training I don't like. That training don't make sense. That training don't make any kind of sense.
Shaka,
listen.
Go on.
Goalkeeping is about short bursts. You work intensely for 10 seconds and then you rest. Diving the line to the national stadium never makes sense to me. Running sand track never makes sense to me. So what I was doing, I wasn't trying to skip training. I was formulating my opinions around goalkeeping.
All right, brother. All right.
Shaq, you say something that really was inspiring to me just now. You spoke about the camaraderie in the studio, and to be honest, I'm not feeling any right now in the studio, but it's good to know there's something I can look forward to on these Thursday evenings or so coming out with this fella.
Listen.
Hold on.
I've worked with Barney for a long time, right? But Barney's take a while to warm up. You gotta just be patient, If the game kicking off 8:00, Barney had to be out there from all about 6.
The thing about it is,
like
Shaka,
an old car. Okay.
No. The thing about it is, right? You can have camaraderie when one person, as we know, one person is as biased as this guy could be, because 1 minute and jumping on either side of the fence, because 1 minute we want Pochettino, the next minute Ole at the wheel. The guy is the worst Man U fan. I mean, Man U, I'm going to apologize now to all Man U fans. I really don't care for you. Right? But
what kind of apology is that? That's the worst apology I ever heard in my life.
Yeah, but I'm being true.
Nicole must have a bat in the house somewhere.
She's a Man U fan too. Right? But the point of the matter is that the camaraderie will come as soon as people start to be honest about the team and about the views.
While you're on that topic, Shaka, I understand there was a game today, man. I think Manchester United put out an experimental team. The hair was on the bench. What do you think about Manchester United's form this season? Let's say on a scale of 8 to 10. What do you think, Shaka? What do you think about Manchester United this season? Take a look at the table and what do you think?
I would like to defer that to Wayne Shepherd.
And I want to accept that wholeheartedly. Manchester United, honestly, has been a mixed bag this season. Right now, Manchester United is playing with the confidence of a side that really knows what it's supposed to be doing, but they don't. they've strung together a number of victories, and Shaka, as you would know, when you win, that becomes a habit and that becomes a feeling. And
You're making assumptions of Shaka there, but go ahead.
it gives you that extra edge and that extra 10% or 25% or whatever it is that it takes to win a game. You believe that you can't lose. You believe that if the game is at a stalemate, there will be a chance for you to win and you could win it. And Manchester is feeding off of that right now. From a tactical standpoint, I haven't seen anything. I've been looking at them. I haven't seen anything revolutionary. I haven't seen set patterns that I could say, well, all right, he's doing this and he's doing that. What I can say is that their players have been winning their individual battles. And in doing that, if you win enough of them, you put together things that would allow you to win a game. And that to me is what has been happening to Manchester. Today, I think today's game, Manchester lost today's game because of two schoolboy errors. And it really, to me, didn't have anything to do with any great tactics or anything like that. There were two moments in the game that...
the opener was Apple Stones, literally, John Stones.
Well, and John Stones scored with practically that part of the anatomy too. but it were two straightforward pieces of defending to be done, and that I would expect a boy playing in the SSFL to do, and Manchester United didn't do that, and they lost 2-0.
I agree to an extent. But I certainly feel Manchester United are playing very good football right now, and arguably the best football in the league. That being said, looking at the game today and just comparing it to when these two met in the league, and I remember us having a conversation, and the most amazing thing about that 0-0 draw is how Pep Guardiola set up to deny Manchester United, and I thought that was the first priority of Manchester City that day, which I'd never seen Pep Guardiola do.
Correct.
Set his team out to stop the opposition, whether at City, at Bayern Munich, or at Barcelona. I'd never seen Pep Guardiola do that, and that was the biggest surprise for me. I didn't get that feeling today from City, who themselves have found form. And again, to conversations that we've had around the game and around City in particular, I wondered if there was a change in the philosophy around where their first line of defense starts, as opposed to that pressing at the highest point of the game. I think you're seeing City be prepared to sit back, drop a little deeper, and start defending from a little bit deeper, which maybe serves them better, in particular against better opposition in the Champions League. And you've seen City grow in confidence. As good as United have been, and as much praise as I've given them on the show over recent weeks, I still don't think they're the best team in the league. As much as I say they've been playing some of the best football over recent weeks, I don't think they're the best team in the league. City in this kind of form, I think, are better. Liverpool in the kind of form that we know they're capable of, but has deserted them over recent weeks. I also believe is a better team than Manchester United. But United, what we've seen from them this season is by far and away so much better than the United that we've seen over the last, probably since Alex Ferguson left.
Yeah, the thing about and we spoke about this, the thing about the tactical setup by City in the last derby, the league game, right?
League game.
Yeah. You could see that City were conscious of Manchester United counter-attacking down the middle. So instead of playing with two attacking and one holding, he switched that around. One thing that I saw in games since then, so he did that in the United game, as we said, to deny the counter-attack down the middle. Since then, he's made another adjustment where he's been playing Cancelo as a right back, but asking him to join the attack almost as a right side inside midfielder.
Right.
but he's also in a position that if the play breaks down, he's there to stop it high up the pitch when they were pushing high up the pitch. Against Manchester United today, he asked him to come inside, but he was almost coming inside as another holding midfielder because their line wasn't set up in the same place. I saw it against Chelsea as well. Chelsea, they played deeper, inviting Chelsea to come on to them and then looking to counter. So you're seeing little subtle changes by Pep. I wouldn't go so far as to say his philosophy has changed. I think that he has been adjusting things as the league requires because people are attacking him in a certain manner. Manchester United and Chelsea were looking to play into the space beyond them, and he's been setting up his team to deal with that. And you're seeing against other teams, you will see changes as well. The thing about it, as I was saying before, but I wouldn't disagree with you that Manchester United is playing well, but I am not seeing, what I'm saying is I'm not seeing set patterns. I could sit down and watch other teams and see it. I think they are playing well based on the players that they have. So the players that they have are playing, they're winning the individual battles, be it on the defensive side or the offensive side. And that is allowing Lasana Liebert to be all teeth. Very little of anything else.
Shaka, let me ask you about the tactical mind of Ole. Well, not sure the tactical or the philosophical. So, he said a strange thing before the game today, right? And speaking to the commentators and so on, he said that he was going to put his team out there to just enjoy the football. And I was looking behind him to see if bears were sharing out or anything like that. You know, I thought it was extraordinary before semi-final. Now, you've played with some coaches, like Mr. Redknapp himself was always one with a funny quip type thing. How much do we take out of statements to the press like that before games? Is it really possible that Manchester went out today to enjoy the football?
Well, it is in that I think given Manchester United's position in the league, you understand if that's gonna be their entire focus going forward. Even so it wouldn't surprise me to hear him say as much before Europa League games to come, etc. That's going to be their primary focus. Everything else is just about let's go out and enjoy football without that same kind of pressure. But at the same time, there's a reason why Harry Redknapp was without question one of the great managers certainly of my era and could get the best out of players with that kind of with that kind of attitude to the game. But when you're managing Manchester United, I think the expectation is very different. You as much as you want to say, yeah, go out and just enjoy the game and have fun, and you don't offer a whole lot more tactically in a semi-final against your Manchester City rivals. I'm not sure, how many players really think so, how many fans want to see that kind of approach.
I thought it was House of Dread going to play on Etihad Field or something for a second. Shaka, so much changing and so much tension in the world. We see today some of well, I wouldn't say your comrades, some of your neighbors storming Capitol Hill up in.
Not my neighbors.
There's been a lot of talk about the Black Lives Matter and everything, and we see in England before the games the teams take the knee and everything else, and now we're hearing. Well, we've had some fans booing the whole thing. Some people saying that we've seen the knee now. What comes after that? It's like it's a little bit stale now. What comes next? What do you say? Is it important for us to keep this action going throughout the season? Does it have any sort of power behind it, or should there be a next step?
I think it should continue, and I think there is power behind it. I also understand the other side of that argument. So one of the first teams to stop taking the knee was QPR. Not in the Premier League, they're in the Championship. Keep in mind, QPR's director of football is Les Ferdinand, former teammate of mine, and the only black director of football in all of English professional football. And as it happens, I had the opportunity to speak to Les earlier this earlier in the summer about exactly that, and why he felt that it had become token. And to his point, it it makes no sense that players take the knee, we wear the Black Lives Matter badges on our arms, and there's no further action within football. That boards continue to lack diversity, that the English FA continues to lack diversity at all its administrative and board levels, and there are no real programs in place to promote the pipelines of black players going on to coach, going on to manage in professional sport. And that was kind of highlighted by FA Chairman Greg Clark and what he said on that call with members of Parliament. That highlighted exactly what Les was saying. I though think that you need to keep having these shows of support. For at the very least, they're conversation starters. And for us to come out, for us to really recognize significant change, we have to be prepared to have a lot of these uncomfortable conversations about race and our experiences in the black community of how racism continues to impact us every single day. Now, taking a knee might promote that conversation around the water cooler at work, or at the dinner table at home. It might force a kid or inspire a kid to ask his parents, why are the players taking a knee? And have those parents explain to their child these issues. And I think that is empowering. And keeping in mind as well my role with Tourism the Red Card as honorary president, and the work that we do in schools and with kids. We want kids to have these discussions. We want kids to feel empowered and encouraged to have these discussions with their parents, with their teachers, with their classmates. And having this visible show is one way to start those conversations. So I feel that's where the greatest power in these shows of support lies.
But Chaka, is there a fear that that other clubs are going to go the route that QPR have gone?
At some point, I guess the game will stop taking the knee, and that doesn't mean that the game doesn't stops recognizing its responsibility to equality. So that doesn't scare me. That if games this weekend, everybody stops kneeling before kickoff. That doesn't bother me. What I want to see is, and I feel we have to continue to push for, and I think the game has also recognized its power and its responsibility in pushing for diversity at club boards of football associations. Even within, I was also fortunate enough to interview Chris Powell, who played for Charlton back in my day, who managed, who now works in Gareth Southgate's backroom staff, and has a role within the English FA about the developing of pipelines for black coaches. And one of the initiatives that they are pushing from within the FA is that you can't force a club, as much as I advocate for the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule is about interviews and making sure that there's diversity in your interviewing process. But what the FA are pushing for is in your academies, you have to have a certain level of diversity and representation at your under 14 and under 16 and your community levels. And that provides opportunity for black players or coaches who may not have played but have gained their coaching badges to get that necessary experience at every level of the game, to learn and provide that pipeline so that when jobs become available and they are invited to interview, they have a body of work to show. They have those experiences to show. So those are the things that will make real meaningful long-term change in a way that simply kneeling and having the conversations won't. But we have to have those conversations to have that acceptance from a general public perspective. But the game has to also recognize its own strength and its own power in driving so many of these initiatives forward.
Now, Shaka, I know in America there are a lot of lobby groups. You're like a lobbyist over there.
I like how you just find me in. I am a part of everything over here, man.
Where you living, brother?
No.
Yeah, but I'm not a lobbyist. I am storming. I have not stormed the Capitol. I don't know anybody who stormed the Capitol.
Do you know where Desha is right now, Shaka? Anyway, let's go back on safe territory here. In England, you see a benefit to black player groups, for instance. I mean, you see the Raheem Sterlings and the Mbappes and so on making very powerful statements. But would we be better served if they actually had a group that was lobbying for their rights over there? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there are ways to organize and to organize those and mobilize those groups. Without saying too much, I think you'll start to see the emergence of at least one group over the next few months around that. And again, I think that is leaning on both the times that we're in, the urgency that the pandemic and the equality protests have highlighted, and the fact that, as you rightly point out, for so long it has been players fighting their individual battles on behalf of their communities, and I think it's time that the communities also kind of come together in supporting those players and those initiatives.
Okay, nice. And another thing you have championed would be players' rights, right? And I saw today in the Jamaican Gleaner a very strong interview, really.
Hard hitting.
And a negotiation taking place between a young man, probably 24 years old or something, Damian Lowe, a Jamaican player, and probably 3 or 4 JFF officials. Talk us through that and what really got you good there.
First of all, Damien is a little bit older.
Okay.
I think Damien is in his 30s now.
Okay.
But I remember being in exactly that position as a part of one of the senior players within the Trinidad and Tobago Football Federation, it was at the time, and trying to have those discussions and how much we push to have those very same issues kind of nailed down on a longer term basis, as opposed to just showing up and, you're not quite sure when you're getting paid, and each game seems to be different and each tournament seems to be different. Set out a 4-year calendar about, what games are to come and what the compensation around that is supposed to be. And then, a year before the expiry of that agreement, you start to renegotiate. And then I also recognize the tone and the language that the Jamaican football administrators were using. And I recognize it from our time. And it was exactly the same. And I know, in speaking to a TTF official at the time, that the attitudes were, these are a bunch of young black boys who, without football and without representing the national team, they would have nothing. And it really irked me then, and it continues to irk me now. So even though, as I was saying to somebody today, I had no intention of jumping back into this fray around the politics of football, I just find that, listen, I've lived every aspect of this game, and I understand how empowering this game. I understand how much this game means, how much it offers in terms of getting people out of financial hardships, in terms of just giving young men and women confidence, as it did with me, or providing a foundation for higher education in going off to the US or elsewhere to pursue, to further their education or live out their own boyhood dreams in playing professionally. And to have people deny you that in a quest for their own ego-driven wants and needs to sit in the same room of power, and more specifically white power, I feel is a gross disservice to this game. That's not what the game is about. That's not why I played the game. So whether that gross disservice is being done by a football administrator in a foreign country or by a former teammate, if you are picking on young, poor black people, I am going to speak out. I'm going to let my feelings be known. Who's upset as a result is inconsequential to me.
Shaka, you're upset? No, but seriously, when I read the article this morning, you remember I messaged you to tell you I'm hearing the passion. I heard the passion in the article, and I'm hearing the passion now. Bringing it closer to home, how do you can you draw any parallels now with what is going on with our football and what you're seeing? What you're seeing? You start
before you even finish that question, my question to you is, what is going on with our football?
Wayne just left the room.
I mean, we have been, I can't even say we've been doggy paddling for the last 12 months. You know, I think dogs are actually excellent swimmers. No, I've never seen a drunk dog, let's just say.
Seriously though, we've missed a really good opportunity here. The world stood still. Mm-hmm. Football stood still. And this was an opportunity for us to really fix our house, so to speak, get proper structures in place so that we can move forward. From what I'm seeing so far, I'm still waiting to see that really happen. I'm not saying this with any fear of anything happening to me. I mean, nothing can happen to me again.
The door is locked, Shaka. Nobody can get in right now.
But I live in real fear for Trinidad and Tobago's football. You go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to cut your body. I understand, and I understand what you're saying. Let me say this, and I warn you all, everything for me has a backstory. I warn you about up front. I warn you about that up front, right? But let me just say, just to paint the biggest picture to this. My father went to England as part of the Windrush generation in the 60s. Was wrongfully arrested by police, challenging Metropolitan Police. Now, a black man challenging the Metropolitan Police, mid-60s in England, sets an example of who I think we should be. That was my example growing up. That's my father in my house, who, you know, that is who I aspire to be like. So the challenge that Trinidad and Tobago football found itself in, with the imposition of the normalization committee and FIFA's strong-handed approach, where a lot of people felt you cannot challenge FIFA in this way, you have to back down, it's their game. That is so far from the example I have grown up with. That is so far from who I know we can be, that I continue to advocate during it all is when you see wrong happening, you have to stand up, and you again, you have to make your voice be heard. Anything less than that is straight up cowardice. If my father could have done that mid-60s England, who are we to challenge power now in 2020, given the progress that the Black community has made in every aspect of our life? So then for all this to happen, and for me, as much as I endorsed William Wallace, I felt he was the best option given the candidates to live up to, again, what I expect or what I think football's promise is. Football's promise for me is about an uplifting of every little boy and girl who wants to play the game, and an empowering of them to take this game wherever, as far as they may want it to be. Whether it's just forming friendships on a playground, whether it's boosting confidence, going to university, or playing professional, or indeed playing in a World Cup. That is up to the individual to decide, but our football administration to empower. And I didn't think that well, certainly anybody else on who went up for elections was capable of doing that. I didn't think Richard Ferguson had that as his focus. David John Williams clearly showed that wasn't his. And in my discussions with William Wallace, and you know how strongly I feel about the Secondary Schools Football League, particularly because of how much it meant to me and my own development. So I had that bond with William Wallace. And then to see FIFA do as they did, again, it spoke to my father's own experiences and the need for us to stand up when wrong is being done. We didn't do that. I, like everybody else, I'm waiting to see the direction that our football goes in, but I don't think it'll be anything like what I believe the game should be. I think it'll be continue to serve the hallowed halls in Zurich in as subservient a manner as it always has been, subservient and self-serving a manner as it always has been, and that for me is deflating.
Yeah, I mean the Caribbean has, I think we could say, world class athletes, from your Dwight Yorks, your Usain Bolts, your Russell Latapy. I mean, Shaka Hislop was pretty okay as well, pretty decent.
Not bad.
Not bad. How would you rate
there's another
structure?
There's another Shaka Hislop we talking about?
Well, how are we able to produce world-class athletes and not have world-class administrators, physios? Well, I'm afraid to say coach, because
Right.
any room here. But you understand where I'm getting, Shaka. What are we missing?
Yeah.
But before we get to the Sheppy bashing, right? Because that's where you want to go down. Let me ask you something. You really believe, when you say we producing, the Caribbean, yes.
Yeah.
But Trinidad, which players we produced? What is produced? Define produce for me.
We get them a jersey and put them on the field.
Because Trinidad didn't produce Shaka. Trinidad didn't produce Russell Latapy. Right? Despite Trinidad's best efforts to do something else,
Well,
those fellas came through.
Well, as it turned out, Shaka, all those names are called actually, funny enough, in one era. So how did you guys come to be pretty okay, Shaka? Give us your story.
They knew me.
I disagree a little bit. I disagree with Barney in that I think Trinidad and Tobago football has to take credit for producing Russell and Dwight.
Let me ask you something, Shaka. Let me ask you something. You're saying Trinidad and Tobago football, right? What was the structure?
Right.
What we both came through that. What was the structure that produced that?
Well, I think, and again, I continue to advocate for secondary schools football league. Latas could never be as good as he was if he didn't get to come up against you every couple of weeks and and beat you to his heart content.
Russell
Was good for his
Russell-
confidence. Was good for his confidence.
Fine-tune his juggling skills against somebody like a Wayne Shepherd. it's not every country have a bowling like Wayne Shepherd.
Wait now. And say
On behalf of the rest of the country, we thank you for the work you did in producing one of the greatest players we ever saw. Thank you, Wayne.
And say let us hold up on the Sheppy bashing, right? but let me counter that, Shaka. Dwight, right? Dwight.
Dwight didn't play against you, Wayne?
Oh yeah, idiot boy.
You notice since Barney stopped playing, we talent dry up. We
Put on your boots, Barney.
Since Barney retired, we stopped producing good players.
Can Barney still make right back at Fatima College? That'll probably be our conversation for the next podcast. But go ahead, Barney.
Barney, seriousness, right?
No.
I know what you're going to say.
I know
you're going to say.
What I'm going to say.
I know you're going to say,
Tell me.
right? But I think, right, I think as a country, you had to provide those platforms.
Yeah, but this
for
is my
players
point. This is my point. Dwight played for the colleges 11 before Dwight even played in the colleges league. Remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
But you and I was on the same squad with that boy. 1986.
I think Shaka got some more football memories after that.
No, well, yeah, he had a lot of football. I have to cling to these little things, you know.
I remember that. We went to Jamaica. We played Jamaica.
No, that was the year before. You and I didn't go anywhere. We played Jamaica. Jamaica came and played us here.
Shaka was being charitable, Barney.
No. I have two stories for you now as you say that, right? Both with him. But anyhow, my point is this. Dwight was going to Scarborough Secondary, right? They weren't in the SSFL, and Dwight was so good at 14 that he was playing with us at 18. Dwight, right? Dwight.
No, you got 18. I am 2 years older than Dwight. If Dwight was 14, I was 16.
Details. You need semantics. You're going off on nonsense.
I'm just saying.
All right.
I'm much younger than you are.
You don't look it though. Anyhow, my point is this: Dwight was a product of Coach
Bertel Sinclair.
Correct.
And Dwight's drive and everything in Tobago. There wasn't any structure. There has never been any structure. Well, let me just say never. There wasn't any structure in that period that really defined that. And funny enough, though, there was more structure than there is now, because we knew if we played well enough in school, you'd get selected to the North Zone or the South Zone or whatever team. If you played well enough there, you'd get called into the national pool for whatever tournament is coming, and you train there. But there wasn't any real structure for me to say, well, yeah, Trinidad has been producing these players. These players have come out of Trinidad. But that is my argument. I understand what you're saying about the SSFL, and yes, Russell and Timothy Haynes and all of these guys, yeah, they hone their art. They're scoring on Shaka Hislop. Right? They never Russell never had any cause to come on my side of the field to deal with me, and I was very grateful. Right? But yes, I understand that.
We'll look for the footage for next week as well.
But a competition is like a test at the end of a term. The test validates whether you have learned the things that you need to learn. And the football game, the competition validates if you can carry out the skills that you've been working on. But that's not development. Development is a whole bigger thing, and we have never done that.
I understand what you're saying, but I also think that, we've kind of learned, and football has progressed, and not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but, well, maybe not in Trinidad, but on the whole, or understanding of that development process has evolved over the years and around the world. There are so many other examples to exactly that of players who maybe fell through the cracks, and you wonder how they were missed, and Ian Wright not being even spotted till he was 23 years old. But you kind of your understanding of that process, you learn and you have to evolve. But I still think, you have to take credit for producing, those kinds of players. Whether you put all that credit or all the credit of Dwight and his ability on Bertil or Russell with Ja Lily White or whoever it may be, that was what we understood at the time. Our understanding has grown and changed. But I still think that as a country, we need to take some pride in that.
And actually, I'll point one thing out. If I remember correctly, Dwight York made his first international game at 12, playing for the national under 14 team. So, I mean, that would also be something we should take credit for, right, Shaka? Because that would mean that we were still...
I played with Dwight. It was
it's against Venezuela or something, was it?
It was an under 12 team that we played against Venezuela under 14s.
Right.
And we got beat up bad. But that was my first introduction to national football as well.
Right.
At that age. So
I
was...
Yeah, and we have players like Jean-Paul Rushford and so on, and Judah Garcia now, and they get in their first international game at 16 and 17. So that would be one thing that we were doing a little bit better.
All right, and that goes against, and you highlighted the fact that we did what we knew then, and the game has gone on, and our understanding is better now, but we actually doing worse.
Yeah.
In terms of trying to help players, reach their full potential.
Well, we're not even scouting in Tobago anymore. So we wouldn't have even, if Dwight York was in Tobago right now at 12, nobody would know about him.
Yeah, I think to that I wouldn't say we're doing worse, but I feel we've stagnated when everybody else has gone forward. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're doing the same things now
that we
were doing when, I was 10 and Barney was 16 or 17.
Hey, boy. I
doing
don't think
the same things though.
No,
but everybody else has gone so far forward. So as an example, and I know that this isn't a fair comparison, just kind of giving the infrastructure and the money. But when we were playing junior football, beating the US was a formality. No, they are so much further ahead than us that it's an embarrassing comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've gone, but again, they have money and infrastructure, but we haven't done anything. We haven't done anything different in trying to move our football forward.
All right, so Shaka, building on that, what do you think we need to do as a country to improve our football? What's the priorities?
Well, my often overused cliche is a rising tide lifts all boats. And as I said before, I think our football has a responsibility to every boy and girl who wants to play the game. So to my overused cliche, I feel we improve the best of our players by improving the worst of our players, by promoting everybody who wants to be involved in the game and giving them that platform to go on to the next level, whatever that next level may be. And I just don't think we have done that. We have focused on who we believe are the best at the time, and trying to keep them separate. We want to, talk about an academy or a home of football that the best of our players are going to live in and they're going to train here. But, as much as we were laughing about it, you have to have people playing the game at every level if you want to see the cream rise to the top.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you want to see those players continue to develop. So the better you make the average player, the better our best players become. And I feel that needs to be our focus. I just feel our approach has been too kind of tunnel visioned around the top of our footballing pinnacle.
Shaka, the next time you walk into a conversation, walk with your own cliches, please. I've been using that for the longest while. I don't know how all of a sudden this is your cliche.
You see?
No, but
if you want to use my cliche, go ahead. But no, all of a sudden.
Hold on.
Circle all the way back.
Say TM, Shaka, TM.
No. So hold on. I'm older than you by 6 or 7 years based on your judgment, but it's your cliche. Look, son, behave yourself.
Yeah, well, let's remember where you went to school.
Boy, now we have to go there. All right? It was going good. But here, one thing from what you were saying before, concerning Dwight, you well, as Lasana pointed out, you have a lot more footballing memories. But you can't remember in the last trial, all the time with that college's 11, Dwight and Colville weren't there because obviously they were in Tobago. We were training in St. Augustine, and they brought them down one weekend to train, and they brought Dwight and Colville onto the field, onto the proposed starting 11. And after 15 minutes, they took them off, and I was hearing this voice behind me, Sheppy. When I turned around, you know that men just get picked. We training here all the time, and them come for 15 minutes, and them get picked. This real nonsense.
Ooh.
Yeah, well.
Who's that voice, boy? It's call names, Wayne.
It might have been a Hislop. It might have been a Hislop.
It's interesting as you point out to Shaka about the home of football, because really Trinidad doesn't have a national youth league. So it's really interesting that our national youth teams are not training. We don't have a national youth league in terms of the TTFA or anyone managing. We don't really scout in Tobago. So it's almost as if they putting the cart before the horse in that sense. You know,
which we always seem to do. You know, I find I so much of our approach to development, as Barney was talking about, is so bemusing. Maybe, you know, you could excuse it from, 40 years ago, but to now, for our focus to be on a home of football, when so many other aspects of our game struggling, I find that really, really ridiculous.
You know, it's so broad, and we're so far off the mark that I don't even think that we could cover that whole the whole gambit of the thing. But the thing about it is, Trinidad and Tobago wants to play football like the rest of the world, but doesn't want to go through the processes that the rest of the world is going through to get to that. So the rest of the world says, you know what? Let us make the coaching level. Let us improve the level of our coaches. Trinidad and Tobago not on that, right? We don't want to take the steps. We want everybody's a Manchester City fan, or Barcelona fan, or Real Madrid fan. We want to play that type of football, playing out of the back and everything. But do we encourage our youths to do that? Have we taught them to do that? No, we can't teach them how to do that, because in learning that, you're going to make plenty mistakes. And you can't be making mistakes in a U8 league with a trophy on it. As soon as you make a mistake, the parents on the sideline, the coaches, everybody calling on the little boy or the little girl to kick it longer. Whole week they train on playing out of the back, but you come in a competition where is real, where their standings and their medals and their trophies. When you go to the rest of the world, when you go to Spain and you go to these other places, they don't have competitions at that level with at that age with those sort of demands. They allow them to play games, competitive games, but you can't find the standings for the U12s in the UK. But in Trinidad, everybody wants to be a winner, and instead of being a better player. That is what is happening.
I think one of the other things we have to do as well is, and in talking about the home of football and how we compare ourselves or try to carbon copy what other countries are doing. I think that's absolutely right. I think what happened, France opened Clairefontaine and then win the World Cup in 1998. And then England go and build St. George's Park for their national team. And we see that and think we have to do the same. We have to copy what they're doing. And then we build this home of football without ever recognizing how their grassroots infrastructure or the other aspects that lead up to a Clairefontaine or St. George's Park.
I thought you were going to say we're going to win the World Cup in 2026, but go ahead, sorry.
The other aspect of this, and I like to talk about France and their approach. Not France, excuse me, Spain and their approach. I remember reading an article. This had to be at least 10 years ago, where Spain, who always produced incredible talent, but could never win tournaments. Were always flops. And then they sat down and decided, let's look at our football and figure out what our football is all about. And they said, listen, we can't compete physically with the English and the Germans. We just can't. As a people, we're not physically able to. But we produce fantastic technical players. So the philosophy becoming, we have technical players who are happy in possession of the ball. We'll keep the ball away from the opposition. We'll keep the ball on the floor. And this is how we play. So while a lot of people complain about tiki-taka and whatnot, and it not effective enough and not penetrating enough, but that's what Spain could do. That's what they were good at. And it took away the physical advantage of so many of their opponents. And that was the kind of football that they decided to play. What they then did was they certified as many coaches as they could at every single level of the game. You just look at anybody to go and look at certified coaches per capita in Spain compared with any other European nation. They are much higher than anybody else not just in Europe, but in the world. And what you've seen is a continued production of incredibly talented technical players, and they have a style that is their own. In Trinidad, we should have a style of our own. We know what kind of football our fans like, the kind of football we like to play. We like to take players on. We like exciting players down the wing. But we look at what France did, we look at what England has done, and we have kind of molded our development around what they do at the highest levels. Don't try to emulate what they do at grassroots level. Haven't even discussed what style is our preferred style. And as a result, everything is just kind of fractured and it doesn't work.
Right. And actually, Barney, you have been part of a group meeting just last year, right, with the TTFA Technical Committee when they were trying to create. How did that go?
A style of play. Well, I don't think anything like that was ever done at a national level before. The conversation was to identify how Trinidad and Tobago, what made practically the same thing that you just said with Spain. I read that article too, Shaka. And it was along that same thought process. That, however, it was a good idea, but that needed to be ventilated and needed a deeper conversation. However, at least it attempted to put a structure and move us in the correct direction, which is to universally try to play, what suited us, right? And to put the things in place to try to develop that. I thought, again, because of the timing in relation to tournaments coming up and us being the first set of teams, it wasn't practical, but it was something for a long-term roadmap to be built out on, and for coaches to be certified, not just certified, but for coaches to identify to a certain style of play. Now, I believe the step before that is coaches being able to teach the technique to all players that is needed so that when you decide and when you determine what is your style of play, the players are already, outfitted with the tools needed to go into that. So it is something that wouldn't happen overnight, but it's something that needs a conversation, needs a roadmap, and I think they were going. It was started. It obviously needed more time to go along, and that's something that wasn't going to happen in a year or 2 years even. It would have taken longer. So that fell by the wayside now. Interesting enough though, and not wanting to to blow the trumpet of a great school. But
you see the smirk on his face right now, Shaka, cringing.
But at Fatima College, Hayden Martin, who was the guy who saved your
St. Mary's College coach.
Who saved your soul. Yes.
He kept something in the kitty.
He's a Fatima student that went to St. Mary's to try to save your life. We don't go down this road. Let us stop here.
We refine the product, Shaka. We refine the product.
I am not going to challenge that.
Right.
But for Hayden Martin, I would have been out of the game.
Yeah. Hayden Martin, exactly what you spoke about with Spain is exactly what Hayden Martin has gone to Fatima and tried to implement. I've listened to parents, to old boys, to a whole heap of people who sit down and watch the EPL or watch La Liga on a Sunday and try to compare schoolboys with Ozil and etc. and not understand the process. I've heard them say all kind of other things, but the people who know and the people who understand would appreciate what he is doing there. And the results at all the youth levels, except for the top team, they reflect that. And there's another reason that people not acknowledging for that lack of success there. But my point is that Hayden, to me, is way ahead of the game in terms of understanding what is needed to build a football identity. And Trinidad and Tobago needs to adopt that approach, needs to get everybody on board so that we could all work together the same way how the Catalan coaches and the Basque coaches and the coaches in Vigo, all of them, all of those coaches put aside their egos, dislikes and whatever and decided to coach all the players in Spain along the same lines so that Spain could put out team after team playing to their strengths and nullifying their opponents. And we need to do something like that. And it should be easier because we are only 1.2 million and we're the same people more or less. So it should be easier, but I don't know. Some went St. Mary's, so you can't save all. Not everybody went Fatima.
Yeah. Always train rocks at the throne, Shaka. They always train rocks at the throne.
You know what? I should broaden it a little bit. Not everybody went Fatima, and not everybody went Trinity.
But the school up in the bush. Yeah. Okay. Well, Shaka, thanks a lot for coming and spending some time talking with us tonight. Before we let you go, though, all those long years.
Bernard.
all those long years all over the place. Tell us, give us something interesting that happened to you in a professional career as a footballer. What do you have for us? Something we don't know.
That's I need more guidance on what is interesting. What do you qualify as interesting?
Give us some guidance there, Barney.
I can tell you which story not to tell. That's
I don't know nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing about that story. Whatever story did you think about it? I don't know that.
Tell us what one of the funny moments in a game or something like that.
Just in Rome or whatever it is.
Yeah. You once told me a story about Harry trying a player who wasn't happy at West Ham, I think, with playing time, and he went to Harry and something about a sign.
Marco Boogers. So apparently, like in the Dutch players and in the Dutch league, it's common for the players to go and talk to the manager and ask why you're not playing, and like they have discussions, like full-on discussions, But
very
in England,
democratic.
like a lot, but in England, what the man just say goes, right? So actually, this was before underage. But the story is, Marco Bogas wasn't happy with his playing time. So he went to Harry. Got in Harry's office. He said, Gaffer, I just wanted to talk to you about, my playing time. I really not getting much playing time. I wanted to talk to you about that. Harry said, come, get up. They walk outside to the front of the office. Harry pointed to the sign above the door. He said, what that sign say? Marco look up. He said, manager, all I hear is the door slam shut. Harry got back in the office and closed the door. Leave Marco Bogas outside. That's the end of the whole discussion already.
Oh, good.
So with that, we close the door on our maiden episode. The Burdie and Barney show. Anything you want to say to Trinidad and Tobago, Barney?
I live here.
Trinidad and Tobago, you're in luck. Barney still resides within our borders. He doesn't need an exemption or anything like that. You probably see him in the mall tomorrow or so. So, thanks again, Shaka. Thanks everybody listening. First episode of the Burdie and Barney show.
Yeah, Shaka, thanks a lot.
Good fun, man. Enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for having me.
About Latapy beating me. But what's stupid is that?
Take your props now. You help Latapy career.
I have Latapy career.
Good day, Trinidad and Tobago. Actually, I shouldn't even say good day, Trinidad and Tobago. I should just say good day, everyone.
Yeah,
because
it's
we're all over the
the-
place. This is Burdie.
And this is Barney.
And as it turns out, this is the Burdie and Barney show. We're here on Wild 868. And we're going to be bringing football to you. One of us, a long-standing journalist. Well, actually, let me cut there. I thought they were going to come in and say something. You're like, let's see where I'm going to go with it. Get open for the pass, buddy. Get open for the pass. What the hell? Let me see what the hell I want to say. I even know what this show is about. Good day, everyone. This is Burdie.
And this is Barney.
And as it turns out, this is the Burdie and Barney show. We're on Wild 868. We're going to be discussing football, and everything in between football.
Which may just be football.
Tonight, our guest... When I say tonight. And our guest today, former Trinidad and Tobago 2006 World Cup player, once the England Premier League's most expensive goalkeeper, and now ESPN analyst, Shaka Hislop.
I know him, He's from Trinidad.
And we out. I wish I could have dropped this mic, but I can't drop the mic.